Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Framing the Future webinar for January 2024. Welcome. My name is Gary Allen. I'm the president of the Maryland Forestry Foundation, and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you to our webinar today. Today's subject is a unique one, which has a long history with Maryland's Forest District Conservancy Boards. It's the sponsorship of the Natural Resources Career Camp. I want to remind all of you that these webinars are being recorded and they will be available on our brand new website, marylandforestryfoundation.org. And frankly, instead of waiting for months to see this, I hope you'll see it even before the end of the month. And previous webinars are also currently available on that website. We'll be talking more about the program at the conclusion of this presentation, but we're pleased to welcome our panelists today. And in order to facilitate our discussion, I want to turn to our moderator, Megan Carr, who's blessed us with her work for the past 2 years, ever since we began. Megan, introduce our program and participants. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, welcome everybody. Very excited for today's discussion. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes for our audience as you are viewing today. If you have any questions, we absolutely welcome those. Please enter them into the Q&A box. For most people, that'll be at the bottom of your Zoom window. And we'll have time set aside for our panelists to respond to those questions at the end of our session. But feel free to enter them at any time. And otherwise, we are going to jump straight in. So today's discussion, as Gary was saying, is about Maryland's Natural Resources Careers Camp, which for more than half a century has provided opportunities for high school students to learn about potential pathways into a life of working with natural resources and in related fields. And we have three excellent folks here to discuss that with us today. First up will be Gabriel Oldham, who's been a member of the Cecil Forest Conservancy District Board since 1979. And I need to just get my notes back up there, and is currently serving as chair of the Cecil Board. Gabriel served 2 terms as president of the Maryland Association of Forest Conservancy District Boards and has been the director of NRCC since 1995. We're also joined by Marie Miller, who's an associate professor at the forestry program and the director of the forestry program at Allegheny College of Maryland. She attended NRCC as a camper, counselor, and guest speaker, and has been involved with the camp as the logistics coordinator and curriculum director over the past 10 years. And last but not least, we're also joined by Don Belinsky, who is the treasurer of the Maryland Forestry Foundation and has been deeply involved with the Natural Resources Careers Camp for over 10 years. The foundation handles not only the financial and fundraising side of camp operations, they also manage the student application process through the Maryland Forestry Foundation website, which we will make sure to have a link up for folks to check out at the end of the session. So I will turn it over to you three. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you. I'm going to start with a brief introduction about the program. Most kids, once away from their technology, love playing outside, exploring the world, discovering bugs, butterflies, dirt, flowers, and trees. As they get older, many still find the natural world fascinating. What to do with that love and fascination? An interesting pastime, a hobby, a sideline? What if you wanted more? What if you believed in the importance of our natural resources so much you wanted to make that your career choice? Somehow, not exactly sure what, but something. The Maryland Association of Forest Conservancy District Boards, the forestry boards, thought that this was important, helping high school students with natural resource career choices, showing them what was involved in those careers and letting them connect with colleges and universities who had those degree programs. So we created a camp to do just that. Natural Resources Careers Camp, NRCC, can help high school students figure out not just what they find interesting, but what else they haven't thought about. They meet like-minded students from around Maryland and from around the Mid-Atlantic, work with professionals who enjoy sharing what they do, try things that might be outside their comfort zone, and think about career options they might not have known about. The forestry boards are very proud of this program. So is Maryland Department of Natural Resources, and so is Allegheny College of Maryland. And so also are all our other partners and our sponsors. We all work together to make this the best experience we can for the campers who spend the week with us. So I'm going to begin the rest of this by giving you a brief history of our camp. The idea for a forestry camp was first introduced to the state association by the education committee at the statewide winter meeting, which it was in November 1970. In early 1971, several locations were proposed as well as ideas for holding the camp. In August, the education committee met to formally discuss plans for holding a forestry camp for high school students. The proposed name of the camp was Maryland Forestry Board's Conservation Workshop, with the tentative plans for the first camp to be held in early September 1972. In September 71, minutes from the State Association Executive Committee shows that the Education Committee was given the direction to move ahead with the planning for the camp. They were told to present enough information on specific recommendations to enable the membership to vote on the proposal at the January 1972 winter meeting. A detailed report was given by the Education Committee at the winter meeting. The report included how transportation was going to be handled, what the cost was going to be per camper. At the time, it was $25 per camper. Suggestions on how to raise money to pay for the campers, locations, and a subcommittee who would create the curriculum and choose staff. The idea was approved at the statewide meeting, and in early September 1972, the first camp was held at Camp Green Top in Frederick County. Up until 2003, Forest Service personnel staffed the camp. The only exception was the camp director, who starting in the late 80s was a forestry board member. In 2003, the state forester, after many years of budget cuts, realized he could no longer afford to provide staff for the camp. There was no camp held in 2004 while the Education Committee worked to find a solution. That solution was Allegheny College of Maryland, ACM, and Steve Resch, who was the professor of forestry and program coordinator for forest technology. The ACM forest technology students who have completed their first year in the Society of American Foresters accredited program became our counselors, and Steve Resch became our curriculum director. One of the added benefits to us was the ability to offer Intro to Forestry, which is a 2-credit ACM course. We were able to offer this to eligible campers. So in 2005, we started back with a whole new partnership, which continues going strong today, benefiting both NRCC and also ACM. The camp moved several times in the 70s and early 80s. However, for the last 40 years, we have happily found a home at Hickory Environmental Education Center in Garrett County. The camp has also undergone several name and curriculum changes. Our biggest curriculum change was the decision early on to focus on natural resources careers. One of our most important early additions was college night, where 6 to 8 regional colleges and universities come to camp and spend a couple of hours talking to campers and counselors about natural resource degree programs. And the folks who come out to camp to talk to the students are actually professors and sometimes department heads from these colleges and universities. We feel we have created a unique and important program for the students of Maryland and the Mid-Atlantic area. And with that, I will turn it over to Marie, and she'll talk about the curriculum and facilities.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you.
All right, so just to kind kind of introduce you or walk you through a week at camp, I decided to present the curriculum in a way that's going to tell you exactly what students do every day during the week. So to start that off, we'll talk a little bit about the facilities. And as Gabrielle mentioned, the camp has been held at Hickory Environmental Education Center in Garrett County for quite a while, where the students are well taken care of in kind of rustic style lodging, where they get 3 hot meals a day, plus a snack in the evening. And the site is maintained by the Garrett County Board of Education. So it's a school facility, there's regular maintenance, and we get a lot of support from the people at Hickory that we really appreciate during the week that we're there. The facilities are beautiful. They have an arboretum, there's hiking trails, a fire ring, athletic courts, and different things like that. So there's plenty of space and opportunity for outdoor and indoor learning. Now on to the curriculum directly. The goal of the camp is to educate and inform campers about the diversity of career opportunities in natural resources and the importance of sustainable natural resource management. So in order to do that, we bring in quite a few guest speakers every day to lead the students through a variety of different topics. And throughout the couple slides here that I'm presenting related to curriculum, you'll see photos of students from different days at camp, so you can get a good idea. We'll talk later about our student population, but you get a good idea of what kind of students are attending camp and some of the activities that they're actually participating in. So we start off on a Sunday. The campers arrive Sunday afternoon, and they get to meet their group and their counselor. They're placed in a group with other students from all across the state. The groups are, I would say, relatively random, where Gabrielle tries to place students from the same county, not in the same group. So it's really encouraging interaction among students from different places. And we start right away on Sunday evening with a discussion of wildlife management that includes a hands-on management planning activity, and then a talk called Maryland's Misunderstood Mammal. And I remember when I was a camper wondering what Maryland's misunderstood mammal might be. And in our case, it's bats. So we've had some really excellent speakers come in and talk about bats that are a really important part of wildlife ecosystems. So that's a good mammal and a good way to start off our Sunday evening, getting students interested in wildlife and exposed to 2 very different sides of wildlife management. Then we head into Monday morning, our first full day. And I should mention that our days start pretty early. Generally, a lot of our presentations are starting around 8 o'clock. Breakfast is at 8, presentations start around 9. We have morning movies starting at 7:30 for those students who like to get up early. But on Monday morning, we start the students off with tree ID. And we have a speaker from the Maryland Forest Service come in and give a little bit of background on tree identification. And then the campers head out with their counselors to spend some time one-on-one identifying trees actually in the woods. So after they spend some time outdoors, learn a handful of trees, I like to say my goal for the counselors to teach the campers is at least 10 trees throughout the week. So they start out with this designated tree ID time, and then they spend time all week long pointing out trees and quizzing each other. So it's amazing what students can learn in a short amount of time. After that, we have a presentation again from the Maryland Forest Service on developing a forest management plan. And the reason we do that is because kind of the capstone project at the end of the week at camp is students present a forest management plan. And this is in PowerPoint form. So it's a little bit, if you're familiar with the forest management plan, it's a little bit less formal than a forest stewardship plan. But it's the idea that students combine everything they've learned throughout the week to develop this presentation on how to sustainably manage a property. So we have a speaker come in and talk about forest management planning, and give the students an idea of just what goes into writing a forest management plan. Then after lunch, we head to the Castleman River State Park, and participate in a rotation type activity where students do stream sampling, soils, and wildland fire. So our stream sampling is always a hit, where students actually get to do electroshocking on the Castleman River with Wildlife and Fishery Service personnel. And we have a picture over here of the students in the water with waders. Always find some interesting macroinvertebrates as well. And we also have in this rotation of activities some information related to soils, because soils are a really critical component in natural resource management, and the Maryland Department of Environment has supported that program for a long time. Students actually do some soil sampling, they learn about the Web Soil Survey, and they also use traditional soil survey books. And the last rotation at this time is wildland fire, which is led by Maryland DNR Forest Service personnel as well. And the students get exposed to different wildland firefighting tools, reasons why fire is good, reasons why wildfire can be bad, a little bit of firefighting, and they get to see different techniques as far as pumps and hose lays, different firefighting tools like hand tools and things like that, Nomex gear. So kind of everything to give them a little bit of a taste of what goes into wildland firefighting, what's the big deal, and why is it important. So a really fun afternoon, 3 great rotations. It really keeps them busy and launches our week of learning about all these different opportunities. Then Monday evening, we have career night. And career night varies from year to year depending on who comes in. A lot of times we aim to have someone representing private forest industry. So that could be a procurement forester or a consultant forester. Recently, we've included natural resource police, and the students really enjoy learning about that career opportunity, because a lot of people, when they think of working in forestry or working in natural resources, they think of the law enforcement aspect. So that's a great time for them to learn about that, one-on-one talking with a natural resource police officer. And then we also have been including the Park Service recently, and actually for quite a while, so that students get to talk with a park ranger or a park manager or a naturalist. And during that time, these individuals share a lot of information about their careers. Sometimes the campers ask very personal questions related to why did they pick this career, or even sometimes related to how much money they make. And the people who come for career night are very generous in sharing their knowledge. And then the last event of the night, typically our evenings wrap up around 10 o'clock. So they've been in programs from essentially 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And our last program on Monday evening is a Scales and Tails from the Maryland Park Service. And the 2 pictures I have on this slide are of a Scales and Tails program. And the person who is delivering the program, his name is Chance Friend. He is actually a former camper who works for Deep Creek Lake State Park right now. So that's one other thing I should add, is a lot of people who come back to camp either attended camp as campers or counselors, and they really enjoy interacting with the students that are there. So then we head into Tuesday, which is a very, I'll say, forestry heavy day, where we really immerse the students in a lot of different aspects of forestry and forest management. So we start off with a little bit of GPS, and each group actually gets the opportunity to use a GPS receiver, go and collect data, and get a basic understanding of how GPS works. And that kind of leads us into GIS, Geographic Information Systems discussions. And we have a speaker from Garrett College come in and talk about the power of GIS and just how you can connect information using a powerful program to kind of show relationships on the landscape that might otherwise not be visible. So getting into the more technical or high-tech side of natural resources. Later that evening, we get into basic tree measurements. So all the students who attend camp learn how to use basic tree measurements tools, including Biltmore sticks, diameter tapes, and they get an idea of how much a standing tree could be valued at as far as timber value. And then the last talk of the evening is related to silviculture. and that would be the art and science of managing the forest. So at this point, the students get their first taste of the idea that cutting trees is not necessarily a bad thing. And forests oftentimes need help in order to be healthy. So a lot of good discussions. We have a hands-on activity associated with the silviculture talk where they get to learn about what kind of things landowners might want to do with their property. And then they get to kind of try to apply it on paper to a forest. So Tuesday is definitely very focused on technical skills and showing these different aspects that go into managing forests specifically, but also some technology as well. Wednesday morning, we head to a sawmill, which is Summit Forest Resources in Pennsylvania. And the mill is very gracious to allow a large group of students to come through and provide us with tour guides. They show us all the ins and outs of the mill. Students get an opportunity to actually be up close with machine operators. Naturally, they have their PPE. But this particular picture is from a time when we were able to talk to a log buyer at the sawmill. So it's always really interesting what students pick that they learn from the sawmill, because everybody sees things a little bit different. We see the wood come in on trucks. We see it run through the mill. We see it end up as boards. We see chips. So it's really interesting opportunity that not that many people get to experience is visiting a sawmill. And it shows the raw product side of forestry, standing trees, being transformed into a product. So really interesting tour. And we spend the whole morning at the sawmill by the time we're transported there and then head back to camp. Wednesday afternoon, Maryland DNR Forest Service leads discussion on forest measurements, field work, and kind of forest management and silviculture related to not just managing or measuring individual trees, but measuring entire forests. And Melissa has led this discussion for quite a few years. She talks about how we sample forests. So it introduces them to the math side of forestry a little bit more than they have been earlier. And the students then, after they get a lesson from Melissa, and often Tim, her technician, they come out together. The students get to go out with their counselor and actually put into practice what she taught them. So they go into the woods independently with their group, and they use tools and equipment to inventory the forest. And the data they collect will be used later to help them make forest management decisions. So it's really giving them the hands-on in the woods. This is what we do if we're going to take a look and try to determine the health of a forest. Wednesday evening, Gabrielle already mentioned, is a very exciting time. We have college night. And through the years, we've had different colleges and universities and other groups come for college night, but it's a really great time for students to spend time talking to instructors from specific natural resource programs. It's not just the recruiter, even though the recruiters do a great job. These are people who know their program ins and outs, and if it's going to be a good fit for the students who are campers at camp. Recently, we've also had the Maryland Conservation Corps attend on college night, which I think is a great opportunity for students who aren't sure college is right for them right out of high school. It kind of gives them another option. It shows them different things that are out there. And college night, I know that the people that come in for college night put it on their schedule year after year because they love talking to the campers at camp. They know their students who are genuinely interested in the programs they have to offer. And you can see listed here, we have some pretty standard attendees in our lineup, and it's a really great event. And then after the students get time to kind of mingle with the colleges, Kevin Dodge from Garrett College provides a Western Maryland Nocturnal Sounds program. If you've never heard Kevin's Night Sounds program, I would strongly recommend putting it on your schedule because it's definitely a favorite of campers. It's one of my favorite programs. And it really kind of shows people there are so many different nocturnal animals in Maryland. And Kevin does a great job of kind of sparking people's interest in not only Garrett College, but also in general, what kind of wildlife's out there. So that's a really great day, a great evening on Wednesday. Thursday is kind of a change in direction. We like to call it our Urban Forestry Day, where students are exposed the entire day to different aspects of urban forestry. And also in this day, students are given a little bit of extra time to work on their data collection that they started the day before. But Thursday morning, we have a Pepco hotline demonstration, which shows why it's important to be careful working near power lines and the potential, risk to you as a worker working near power lines. So the guys that come out are really, really great at explaining things on a level that the students can understand. And it really gives you an appreciation for how dangerous their job can be. And I think it really will leave a lasting impact on campers that you don't want to work near power lines if you don't know what you're doing. And then later that morning, we have a panel discussion related to urban forestry, where we outline just what is urban forestry, what's involved in working in urban forestry, what are some career opportunities. And then a lot of our people who come in for Thursday afternoon activities sit on the urban forestry panel, and they talk with the students about what they do at their job, how they got into urban forestry, and different things like that. So it's a great time for them to really spend time one-on-one with these people who are working in the industry and learn about specific opportunities that could be available for them. Thursday afternoon, we have 3, again, exciting rotations where students spend time either tree climbing, tree planting and pruning, or learning about chainsaw safety. So tree climbing is hosted by Bartlett Tree Experts, and they send up a crew of people who help actually get the campers up in the trees. They talk about safety related to tree climbing, why they do tree climbing, and then most campers take advantage of that opportunity to climb trees, and some of them go up, quite high, as you can see in some of these pictures. But Bartlett's really gracious to send quite a few employees up to facilitate that. Also, at the same time, Davy Tree Experts facilitates tree planting and pruning. So every year we plant at least 3 trees at the Hickory Environmental Center property, and that's facilitated by Davy. So students learn the proper way to plant a tree. And additionally, in that rotation, they also learn about why it's important to prune trees and kind of tree health and tree care. They might look at some insect problems or anything else they stumble across while they're planting their tree, and look at some of the other trees on the property as well. So Davy facilitates that, and they send up a large group of people to help with that as well. So the last rotation is chainsaw safety, which is something that's facilitated by Allegheny College, where we don't let the students run chainsaws, but we do talk about proper protective equipment whenever you might happen to run a chainsaw, how chainsaw injuries occur. And then we kind of talk about the evolution of how we used to use crosscut saws, and now we use chainsaws, and even beyond that for timber harvesting. And then we give the students an opportunity to actually use a crosscut saw, which is something we have in our forestry program. We have a woodsman's team, and that's something that you're not often going to get an opportunity to do something like that. So students are usually really excited to have the opportunity to run the crosscut saw. And we also sometimes have a little competition to see who are the fastest 2 sawyers at camp. But a really exciting afternoon, exposing them to all different aspects of urban forestry. And one of the best things is they get to spend time talking to these industry professionals while they're climbing or while they're planting, to really get an idea of what they do. Thursday evening, we have an excellent presentation on bear management in Maryland from DNR Wildlife and Heritage Service. And they talk about all aspects of management. They talk about Maryland's bear hunt. They talk about bear biology, bear health, why we got to the point where it was time to start managing bears with a hunting season. And this is a topic that often solicits a lot of questions from campers, because here in Western Maryland, where we are, bears sometimes can become a nuisance, and that can be hard for students from across the state who don't have the same problem to understand, why are we doing this? So it's a really great opportunity. A lot of bear biology as well. And a lot of the campers are really interested in that aspect. Why are bear populations this way, and how are we managing them, and how are we monitoring them? And we've had some really excellent speakers related to bear management. It's usually a favorite program throughout the week. It noted many times by campers as being one of their favorites. And keep in mind, these presentations are happening from like 8 to 10 p.m. So that's something that always is amazing to me, that even after they've been busy all day and they still have the energy left to, really enjoy and engage in these evening presentations. So Friday is a day where students spend a lot of time developing their management plan in preparation for Saturday, where they'll give their management plan presentations. So the counselors spend a lot of time with their groups sometime on Thursday, and then a lot of time on Friday, helping them develop their plan presentation PowerPoint and helping them make decisions on what should we do with this property? How should we manage this property? How can we meet this landowner's objectives? And one thing that's involved is actually meeting with the landowner. So the Allegheny and Garrett County Forestry Boards, as well as Maryland Forest Service personnel, are very generous to come up to camp and spend time one-on-one with these groups, acting as their landowners. So they're given a scenario, like maybe they want to earn money off their forest, or maybe they want to have better hunting. And so then they're assigned a group, and the landowner has to tell their group what they want from their property. And it's the group's job then to manage their forest to meet the landowner objectives. And you can see we have a lot of generous people who come up to camp and spend time with the campers. We have Ann Hairston-Strang, George Eberling, both DNR Forest Service personnel, but also the forestry board members from Allegheny and Garrett County are great landowners, and the students really enjoy interacting with them. Last thing we have on Friday, so the students spend most of the day on Friday working on landowner meetings and working on their management plan presentations. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, essentially, we have a campfire, which is mostly facilitated, I'll say, by Gabrielle, and which she encourages students to display any kind of talent or anything they learned throughout the week. And it's really kind of a fun event to close off the week, where we've had a lot of educational programs, and it's time for them to kind of have a little bit of free time and fun on the last day. And for some students that come to camp, that's their first campfire. Their first campfire and their first s'mores, and it's really exciting. So Saturday, generally, students wake up, clean up camp, and then deliver their management plan presentations. So each group is allotted time to deliver their presentation. They have to outline their landowner's objectives, and all of these management plans are being created on the Hickory property. So we have a lot of maps that look very similar, but the students are all coming up with different ideas as far as management, how they want to manage the property to help the landowner meet their goals and objectives. And after that, there are some awards presented at camp, including Camper of the Week, which is selected by counselors. And that kind of walks you through what a week at camp looks like. And I guess if you would take away anything, it would be there are a lot of opportunities to learn about many different things from many different people. So it's definitely not just one person up there talking all week. And it's also definitely not just walking around in the woods. It's very educational. They spend a lot of time one-on-one with their counselor, learning about what the presenter presented to the whole group. So there is a lot of focus in the curriculum on multiple use forest management and managing forests sustainably and managing resources in general sustainably. So students should walk away with a basic understanding of it's good to manage forests and we need to manage forests. And here are all the jobs that we could potentially get that are involved with managing natural resources and soils and wildlife and forests and fire and all these different things. And again, the speakers that come in, we definitely couldn't have camp without them. And they're a really great resource for us. As mentioned before, we do offer college credit for Intro to Forestry, which is a 2-credit college class at camp. And at the end of the week on Friday afternoon, students do get an hour free time every day. And on Friday afternoon during their free time, they have to take a written exam related to everything that they potentially learned at camp. So their grade would be based on that and their group presentation. So their participation in the group presentation. And just to give you an idea, definitely not all campers who come to camp do the college credit, but we've had 91 campers earn college credit since 2012, which I think is a pretty good number. And some of those students end up here at Allegheny College when they decide to go to college, and others end up anywhere else. So it could be somewhere local, or the credits do transfer to a fair number of colleges as an introductory natural resource credit. So it's a great opportunity for the students, but again, not all of them do it. It doesn't really change the camper's experience at camp. It's just one added benefit of being there. A little bit about our counselors. So the counselors at camp, as mentioned before, they are Allegheny College students who are typically finishing up their first year in our program, getting ready to go into their second year. So they've had all their basic, forestry skills, as far as land surveying and forest measurements, tree identification, and they attend camp, and it provides them with an opportunity to gain leadership experience. A lot of the students learn a lot from their campers at camp and how to deal with people. They also a lot of times form great relationships with their campers and can really be mentors for them and steer them in different directions as far as, what are they going to do after high school, and why did the counselor make the choice to go to Allegheny College or do natural resources. The staff or the counselors do participate in regular staff meetings where they talk about, how are we going to handle this particular camper who may be giving us a little bit of a challenge, or who are your star students that you want to really recognize at the end of the week. So being a counselor at camp for my students is really beneficial, not only because they do get credit in one of their courses later in their education, but they also get to really figure out if that's something that they enjoy doing, if they like working with students, and it really kind of grows their leadership ability. In addition to the counselors, which we have a group leader counselor for every group at camp, other people at camp would be Gabrielle, who's the camp director. We also have a curriculum coordinator, logistics coordinator, and there is separate night staff. So the counselors are on duty to kind of take care of facilitating learning for their groups during the day. But once the programs end, they go to bed just like the campers are supposed to. So we do have night staff separately who are up all night and available for campers. If there should be some kind of emergency or somebody needs something, there are people there at night. And there are also staff assistants who assist in the functions of camp, whether that's making sure things are where they're supposed to be, or organizing, or helping a group that needs a little extra help. The staff assistants are generally former campers who have filled out an application in order to be a staff assistant. And that can provide them with volunteer hours if they need them, but also just an opportunity to come back to camp and learn more about what they did the year before, usually. So the counselors are really critical to the function of camp. Without them, it would be virtually impossible to take care of, the 42 campers and provide them with hands-on learning. So the counselors really facilitate that. So who are the campers? Campers at NRCC come from all over the state, and each county in Maryland typically can send 2, but it's also possible for counties to send more campers to camp. A lot of time, the applications go through the county forestry board, but students generally are in the grade level prior to 9th grade to the grade to after the year right after graduation. So 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. I would say if there's an ideal year to go to camp, it would be somewhere in the middle, so that you can take full advantage of learning about the opportunities and it can help you make decisions for your future. Because, 8th, 9th grade is fine. It's a little early. 12th grade, it's not too late, but you may have had your mind made up at that point. So right in the middle, I think, is the best time to go to camp. But generally, the group is very mixed as far as age level, grade level, and just a little statistic, NRCC has hosted 602 campers since 2004, which I think is a pretty good number. And from all across the state, students taking advantage of this opportunity. I do have a couple video testimonials. I don't think we came to a resolution about how to get these videos to play, but just to summarize, Charlotte Crawford was a recent camper, and she said that one of the things she enjoyed most about camp was meeting students from all across the state. And that's a kind of a recurring theme with a lot of our campers, is that they come to camp, they learn a lot about natural resources, but they also network with other students who eventually could be their coworkers if they end up in natural resources. Anna Cullen was a recent counselor at camp. She's in our forestry program right now, and she highlighted the opportunities for learning about different natural resource careers that she learned about at camp and working with the campers. She enjoyed working with the campers directly and kind of mentoring them related to natural resources. And we also have a little video from Ann Hairston Strang, who's our Maryland Forest Service State Forester, and she attended camp and noted the impact that it had on her future career choices. And I think that that's a common theme whenever people attend camp. It often does have a major influence on their career choices, and it shows them that these are opportunities that are out there. Oh, the videos are going to play, but they're not going to play. Okay. So I also have some written testimonials, and this one is from Sarah Milbourne, who is the Western Region Manager for the Maryland Park Service. And Sarah attended camp as a camper, and I have several of these testimonials. I'll read this one and put the other ones up. Actually, I'll just summarize this. The thing that stood out to me most about Sarah's testimonial is that she said, "Don't miss the opportunity to attend camp. It changed my life." And I think that is really meaningful for those of us who are facilitating the camp, and we go to camp with all these campers. And for Gabrielle, I hope it means the same for her, that when someone says it changed my life, that's a big deal. And it's a really great opportunity for students and anybody who has an interest. Some other testimonials, David Keene, he's actually a member of the NRCC Education Committee. He comes back to camp. He attended camp as a camper, ended up going into a natural resource career, and he said it's really beneficial for young people to attend camp because of all the hands-on experiences that they get. And then Melissa Nash, she is someone who attended camp as a camper, attended camp as a counselor while she was a student at Allegheny College, and is now a project forester for the Maryland Forest Service. And she said it was a perfect opportunity for her to learn about what she knew a little bit about, but it really expanded her knowledge of natural resources and opportunities that were out there for her. All right, so that's all I have as far as curriculum and campers. And Dawn is going to talk with us a little bit about our sponsors and support.
Hi, yes, I'm Dawn Belinsky. I'm the treasurer of the Maryland Forestry Foundation, and I have been lucky enough to be involved with NRCC since I started on the Maryland Forestry Foundation back in 2008. So I have seen the excitement of the kids. We handled the application process. I've seen just by interviewing our students here in Calvert County who have been the benefit, that the value that they have given to the camp and their career choices and their futures. So I am just a tremendous supporter of NRCC, and I wanted to talk about who all sponsors this wonderful camp that we have started. And the thing that is in common with most of our sponsors is that they see the value of filling the future employment pipeline. They understand that, to pique the interest of young people, you have to not just talk about it, you have to show them. And that is what Maria spent, as you could see, the entire week doing, Marie and Gabrielle, with these students. The camp itself provides a setting where students, in a very comfortable and rather informal way, can have the opportunity to meet and speak with these professionals. So it is, I think, a unique offering for high schoolers that doesn't come along very often. So getting back to our sponsors are industry and nonprofit organizations that give not only financial assistance to our camp, but many of them, importantly, as you've seen, have also come on site and share their time and expertise with the students. There are 3 organizations that you've heard about that do give an enormous amount of time to ensuring the success of NRCC. The first is Allegheny College, with Marie, her staff, and the counselors spending the entire week there and giving these students a tremendous opportunity for hands-on learning and other educational opportunities. Then there's the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, of course, who send many of their foresters and other employees and bringing them on site, giving demonstrations, presentations, participating in career panels. And especially now that a former camper is the head of the Forest Service, Ann Hirschman-Strang, she has shown tremendous support over the years for NRCC, and we're lucky to have her come on site annually. Then there is one of the most involved organizations are the forestry boards, as you've heard in the past. The forestry board members in every county across the state and in Baltimore City are the linchpin in the enrollment process. They're the ones that recruit the students. They interview them to make sure they're a fit with the camp. And then in most cases, they pay for the tuition of their students so that the camp is affordable to all families. And as you saw, Garrett and Allegheny Forestry Board members actually come on site and act as landowners in the week-long project that the students are involved with. So these forestry boards are key to the success of the camp. On the commercial side, Bartlett Tree Experts has been our largest financial donor for decades. Bartlett is quite a sizable tree care company that provides residential and commercial services in the U.S. and abroad. And we're lucky that they have a large presence in Maryland so that they not only are our largest financial donor, but they're able to send their employees, the arborists, on site and help with some of the activities. The students find that being hoisted up into the tops of treetops is one of their favorites. So I think they've been very important part of students being able to ask them questions and see what they do in their jobs. On the nonprofit side, for the last several years, we have been overwhelmed by the generosity of the Isaac Walton League of America, who have come on strong in support of NRCC. As a nationwide group who works in environmental stewardship and conservation education, the Maryland Division chapter has sent in generous donations to help pay for student tuitions, and recently, the Lois Green Sligo chapter has donated a wonderful amount to help us with the growing operational cost of the camp. Some of our treasured annual sponsors are, and I have a long list, Howard County Recreation and Parks, Pixel Specialty Solutions, Davey Tree Experts, the Maryland Arborist Association, Maryland Forest Association, the Maryland Tree Farm Committee, Maryland Department of the Environment, PEPCO, the Friends of Becoming an Outdoors Woman, MAC ISA, and Potomac Valley Fly Fishers. Every contribution that we receive is so greatly appreciated, especially in these times of heightened inflation and wage growth. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our annual supporters for making us the strong and vibrant careers camp that we are. And of course, I'd like to extend a welcome to anyone else out there who might be interested in supporting NRC in whatever fashion. Please please feel free to contact us through our website, marylandforestryfoundation.org. We'd be happy to speak with you more about the camp and to provide you with any financial information that you'd like to see about the camp operations or the foundation. So that's my piece. Thank you. There's our information on how to contact us on the website. And, you know, if there's, I imagine we'll turn it over to questions now.
Great. Thanks so much. And thanks to all three of you for really informative discussion and a great background on the camp and what it's done for young folks in Maryland. So again, I'll just remind folks, if you have questions, to please enter those into the Q&A box. We have about 8 minutes to go through questions, so please do feel free to drop those on in. While we see what questions folks in our audience have, I'd like to just toss out for discussion. I'd love to hear more about kind of how the curriculum has evolved in recent years. I know you were talking a bit, Marie, about how, you know, using GPS units and GIS has been incorporated. So especially as things like technology has evolved, that's really come into natural resources, how that's been, you know, taken into consideration.
Sure. Good question. Just like in our program, we try to keep up as much as possible with the latest technology. And I think that the talk on the power of GIS has adapted well to showing, you know, how GIS used to be and how we can use it for even broader applications today. I think the students are getting to use high-tech tools and equipment. So the benefit for them is, you know, here at the college, we're fortunate to get new tools and equipment. So whenever we get something new, we take it up and show it to them. So one thing is we have incorporated new data recorders into our program. So generally we try to at least show them that you can do this inventory, forest inventory with paper and pencil, but there are other tools that are available to be used as well. A lot of other speakers bring in whatever technology they're using at the time. And I think that the BAT presentation does a great job of showing some new technologies that can be used for wildlife monitoring.
Great, thank you. So Gary put in a question. If you could please briefly review the application process and what that looks like for potential participants.
Yes, I'll take on that one. The Maryland Forestry Foundation website has an entire webpage dedicated to NRCC, and then all applications should be done online. It's a very simple process. You could even look at you could preview what the questions are in the application process with through a PDF that you could download. So students need to send in submit the application online. Then the other requirements for application are that they get 2 letters of recommendation sent by non-family members. Most people choose to have teachers and or anyone that has been mentoring them, or whether they've had some work experience, their bosses in their work experience send in letters of reference, and these applications are sent directly to the forestry boards in the county where the student resides or goes to school. And then the forestry board contacts the student. They do an interview to see if the student is a fit for camp, because, you know, it's not for everyone. And so then they make the determination on whether they have accepted the student or not, and whether they're able to pay for their tuition or not. Most students have their tuition paid for either through the forestry board or through other outside donations. The Western Maryland RC&D have sent in tuition payments for students. And then, as I said, the Isaac Walton League of America has sent in things that will pay for student tuitions. Students are required to pay, families are required to pay $150 for what we call student activity fee to help pay for the materials of the camp. But other than that, once a student is accepted, once we reach 42 students in enrollment, then we shut down the application process. We will accept about 4 or 5 students on a waiting list. And then if anyone happens to fall off, then those students are added in. But it's a pretty painless application process. The letters of reference are also done online through our website. So really all the information on how to do the application is directly on the NRCC webpage.
Right, and sort of related to web pages, is contact information for the county forestry boards on that website as well?
Yes. Yes, a full listing with their current contact information is there.
And when is the camp generally held? Good question from Diane.
Camp is always held the last full week in July. And I think the dates for this year are, I can see Dawn looking.
July 21st through the 27th.
Right.
Yeah.
And question that Dawn, if you wanted to field, or if Gary wanted to unmute and discuss a bit, an attendee asked, in addition to the NRCC camp, I saw mention of an urban forestry camp. Is that still something the forestry board is exploring?
Well, I'll take that one for just a moment and simply say, yes, there is a new camp being planned right now as we speak. We're very pleased to see that the model of the Natural Resources Careers Camp has been so successful, and the introduction of urban and community forestry is a vital part of that program, as you've seen from the presentations. But we've identified the fact that urban and community forestry is one of the growing career opportunities in forestry across the nation, and particularly here in Maryland. And so the foundation is exploring the initiation of a 3-year pilot beginning in the summer of 24 is the current plan, and continuing in 25 and 26. The first year program would last just like NRCC for a single week, but the program will be expanded in the pilot years to a 2-week program on the campus of the University of Maryland in College Park. Please stay tuned to our website for additional information. These plans should be finalized, if we can move them to fruition, probably within the next 45 days. We fully anticipate by the end of February that enrollment will be open, but we do not have final closure on this. As you know, the legislature's in session, and sometimes decisions are made which cause us to defer or delay the implementation of even the most ambitious plans. But this is one that we're very excited about. And by the way, just parenthetically, in a closing comment, in anticipation of the camp, our webinar in February will feature a full discussion about what is urban and community forestry. I noticed that several of our panelists today have addressed that subject and talked about how it's featured in NRCC. But what we find is that a great many people have questions about what it is and how it's distinguished from traditional forestry, and what makes it a unique career opportunity for the future, particularly at a time when urban populations around the country are growing, and we're looking for the preservation, protection, and management of green spaces as a part of the quality of life in these urban areas. So we hope that you'll stay tuned and come to our webinar in February, and also look to the website for additional information about the planning for the camp itself. Thank you.
All right, and that brings us right to 2 o'clock, and we don't have any currently open questions. So I'll just briefly thank everyone again for joining us today and for some great presentations. Gary, if you have any final words.
I do, and I want to thank the panelists, particularly Gabriel, Marie, and Dawn, all excellent examples of the professionalism that surrounds the planning and implementation of this camp, and for the outstanding examples and overview they've just provided us. We're hopeful that this webinar will enhance not only the public understanding of the program, but the ongoing enrollment and success of it in the future. So I want to thank each and every one of you for the work that you have done, and Gabriel, particularly to you for all the years of input you provided in managing this experience so successfully for so many kids, and have introduced them and many others to careers in natural resources throughout Maryland. Thank you very much for your continued contribution to this program.
Thank you.
Take care, friends. We'll see you next month on the 3rd Thursday of each month at 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.